Hello, everybody. It's Jim Feist in Las Vegas, and it's, we've had a great All-Star break. It was nice to have 4 days off, and I really appreciate it. Rested up, done some personal things, and been doing a lot of research on the second half of baseball and the upcoming football season. Now, today, I'm joined by an old friend. We worked together many, many years ago and then went different directions. Kelso Sturgeon, who has been around for as long as I have or longer. I'm not quite sure. It doesn't matter. We're not going to talk about it because people actually say like we're old or something. So that's not even fair. Kelso presently works for VegasSportsMasters.com. His plays are available there every day. And Kelso, I know that you've been around horse racing and sports betting for a long time. You've seen it probably pre-internet and pre-cell phone and pre-cable TV. And I know what that's all about. And the transitions have been great. We're into digital marketing and the whole digital world now. But it all comes down to one major factor. Can you win money betting sports? And I know you and I...
That's the only thing that matters.
That's right. And you and I have been doing it for decades. And, we pick up a lot of the new trends, the sabermetrics, all that stuff. And it all works, and it all adds to what we do. But welcome aboard again, Kelso. It's good to talk to you again after all these years. It's been a long break. And how you been?
Well, I'm doing quite well. It's a treat to be here. And as you pointed out, the little 4-day hiatus that we had off was wonderful because, as you and I both know, we work every single day handicapping, and even the short break is wonderful. But I'm doing extremely well. I'm working overtime to get ready for the NFL season. I have some strong opinions on Major League Baseball. I need to comment sometime during our conversation today on algorithms, which many people claim will revolutionize the sports betting industry and produce nothing but winners, and I have a contrary opinion.
Okay, I'd like to hear that. Where would you like to start?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, I'd like to hear more about the algorithms and like that. Where would you like to begin?
Well, let's start with the algorithms, and then we can kind of fade into football. Basically, algorithms are not new to either of us. We have certain elements that we consider when we're handicapping, and my list actually is 42 items long. Some are shorter, some are longer, but handicappers have never just walked in and looked at a number and said, okay, I'll take Green Bay and lay the 3.5. But there has to be many factors considered, and that's what algorithms do. They combine all these factors and they make predictions. And I think that sports bettors better beware of algorithms from people that basically don't understand football and rely completely on numbers. First of all, to show you how strong they are, one company predicted that Germany would win the World Cup soccer, and as it turns out, they got beaten the first 2 games they played. Then Goldman Sachs got into the act and said that it would be England that would win, and of course England did not win. And the point I'm making is there's nothing sure about algorithms, regardless of what all the mathematicians and the scientists tell you. Old-fashioned handicapping is really what will get it done basically now and forever. And so on the issue of algorithms, be very, very careful, because I would have to predict that their win percentage will be 50-50. And I know I've talked to a lot of people, and they're nervous about it. So, what about algorithms? Should we use them? I try to explain that we always have, but since we are not mathematicians, physicists, or whatever, that fact is kind of ignored. So beware of algorithms. That's all.
Well, algorithms, it goes along with the sabermetrics and all the things that come from there. And there's many ways to break down statistics. And when we're talking baseball, people talk about xFIPs and versus ERA, and I understand all that, and I use that in my thinking. You go back to the basics. You just have to always stay near the basics of what has worked, and then you can make modifications. And I don't think any one system or any one statistic is going to beat the spread, beat the vigorish, the 110, the 100 that you have to lay. I think it takes a lot of work. Articles, reading articles, listening to what coaches are saying, listening to what players are saying. Like, for example, you're talking about the baseball a little bit. Baltimore Orioles.
I'm sorry.
Baltimore Orioles are starting to dump some players, and they might go into a fire sale routine and just be totally a little bit like the Marlins were at the beginning, although the Marlins are doing a little bit better than most people thought they would. So you have to just stay on top of a lot of things in order to beat. Well, anytime you're laying more juice than you're winning back, when you're laying $1 to win 91 cents, which is what it really comes down to in a normal point spread situation, in a money line situation in baseball, you're always giving up juice. And the juice is what helps the bookmaker earn money. It's not all he makes money from, but he makes more money from losing bets and handicappers that don't know what the hell they're doing. So you have to stay on top of everything. You gotta know what the trends are, and you got to look for overlays and underlays. And it's been this way for the hundreds of years, and it's always going to be that way. If you're laying too much of a price or taking too little of a price, you're going to end up on the short stick and living in the streets. So that's just the way it is. So anyway, we've got the football season coming up, Kelso, and I've been preparing mostly for the pros, and I'm doing a lot of division work and looking at who's going to win the division, the over and unders on win totals, etc., etc. You mentioned in our pre-conversation before we started the routine here is all the new quarterbacks that are coming into the league and be starting this year. And I know you have a good overview of that.
It has to be an issue. I take the position, which people might think is crazy because I'm like you, I've been handicapping forever, but I open every football season thinking that I know everything, but accepting the fact that I know nothing. It's just a kind of a tradition that the New England Patriots are the favorite to win the Super Bowl. Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, etc. They're going to play for the national championship. I think these are dangerous assumptions. We don't know that that's going to happen. We think that it's going to happen, but one's got to look beyond what we think and get down to what we know. College teams change drastically from year to year. Now, not the top teams, because teams like Alabama and Clemson collect the top players in the country and prove time and again, if you could get these players, you could win championships. But the other teams, let's take Eastern Michigan or Appalachian State or whatever, they may or may not be better or worse than they were last year, and we don't spend all of our time betting on the top 3 or 4 teams in the country. We fish around looking for edges with particular teams, or we find soft lines or whatever. So I take the position that I know absolutely nothing about any of these teams, and then go about studying them and hopefully applying the proper expertise that gets the job done. But it's a real folly to think that the team is going to perform this year the way it did last year, for better or for worse.
Absolutely. The top teams are going to reload. They don't. That's all they do.
Right.
They reload. So they're always going to have quality athletes. The money is going to be made generally finding the little gems from the other teams. Now, I could say to you, because teams are overrated, like Alabama's and stuff, they're always going to be overpriced. And I could say, make a general statement, you're better off betting against them. But that's not always true. Because if they decide to run it up, second half, fourth quarter, whatever, the end of the game, they're going to cover a lot of spreads, and you can make a lot of money with those kind of teams if the coaches have shown a tendency to do that. Not every coach does that. So it's a matter of a week-to-week adjustment as to, they come out and they're a 35, 40, 45-point favorite. They're going to win the game. That's a given. But are they going to pour it on in the second? I mean, the first half score might be 40-0. And then the second half score might be, the final game might be 48-14. So they don't cover the spread. But other teams are just going to pour it on. So it's about working with what the coaches are, what the offensive coordinators want to do when they have that kind of lead. Do they want to back off and prevent injuries, et cetera, et cetera? So there's all kinds of things like that.
Well, you're 100% right. And, you hit a very key point that people overlook. You have to kind of adjust week by week and look at the situation, what the last game produced, what the next game looks like, etc. And you do have to change your judgments and alter your ratings a little bit, And there are coaches who run up the score and coaches that don't. I was a good friend of the late Bear Bryant, and I asked him one time, I said, Coach, when do you call off the dogs? And, of course, he was extremely successful at Alabama and at other stops along the way. He said, I call off the dogs when I'm up 43-3 with 3 minutes to go. and I really believed him. And he just never took anything for granted, thought no lead was ever big enough. And so, he scored a lot of blowouts. Unless maybe he was playing a friend. And then the situation was simply you could bet on him and lay the big numbers. Other coaches, as you point out, they might open up a big lead in the first half and go to sleep in the second, and you'll lose to the backdoor cover or whatever. But you hit the key. Week to week, you've got to pay attention to what's happening.
Absolutely. You might take a team, for example, you might get a team that gets on a roll. And I love the type when you get a team that's an underdog that overperforms. And most players like to bet the favorite and the over. That's what the common player does. However, if you get a team that's on a roll or constantly coming from behind, maybe they have a good passing game, college team, pro team, whatever it is, and they're behind, they might be behind by a lot, they're not covering the spread, but they come back and cover the spread because they're able to score against a team that might be playing prevent defense. Same thing can happen in baseball. Second half of the season, you might get a team that's kind of out of it, but they're making a move. Nobody's giving them respect, and they're going up against teams that are really good, and they're in the hunt, and nobody's giving them enough credit. I like to look for underdogs at prices. I try to look for bet against overvalued clubs, overpriced teams. In baseball, it's different because you're dealing with money lines, and in order to cover, you got to win the game unless you're betting the run line. In football and basketball, you can cover spreads by losing. If you're taking 14 and you lose by 10, you made the money. So it's a different mentality, but you have to be able to make a number and know that this number is what you can use to play against what the real odds are in order to get an advantage and come on the plus side.
Well, on the issue of baseball, I have just with me, it's something I've always done. If I look at a game, and let's say a team is a minus 120, I immediately examine the underdog because, in some of those games, now the minus 120, you can lay it all day, and it's nice, but, it would be nice to take the plus side there, too. And when I see that minus 120, I know that there has to be something that made these teams basically equal to get the job done. And I've won with more underdogs using that thought than any other element. But I'm like you. I'm looking for the right number.
Absolutely. Kelso, I know that I believe that your original early part of your life, you were really in the horse racing area, hanging around the tracks, knowing the trainers, the jockeys, and that was something that I remember about you. Do you still do that?
Well, first of all, let me tell you something. Anybody who handicaps horses never gets any respect, and no matter what they do. I was a jockey agent for 3 riders, Vincent Bershali Jr., Carlos Pereira, and Arnold Ilescu, who won more than 11,000 races. And when I kind of backed off because when I would try to teach people about horse racing, I was received as if I was, some kind of a lame-brained idiot or whatever. I know horse racing like few people in the country do, but I backed off a little bit because it pays to be at the racetrack on the backside at 5 o'clock in the morning and watching and listening to everything that's going on. And you're going to find that you have several edges to win bets a week. Now, I would love to bet the horses every day on just what I know, but I know it's difficult to beat them if you're not around them. So I'm very interested in horse racing. It's my holiday sport, but I'm just not as knowledgeable as I used to be because I was on a first-name basis with everybody. And now half those guys are dead. I don't mean to say that lightly, but you've got to be in the know to beat the horses. It's as simple as that. I know horse players don't want to hear that, but most of them, unfortunately, walk around broke or hustling money for a bet because they're not in the know. They don't realize what's going on. And I'm not talking about fixed races. I'm talking about the things that trainers do to win and to lose. And so I love the game. I'm a little bit removed from it right now. By the way, can't wait to start betting Saratoga tomorrow. Del Mar opened yesterday. Saratoga opens tomorrow. They're 2 great meetings for bettors.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, living here in Las Vegas, we don't have horse racing local. We do have the ability to bet racetracks because all the casinos have tremendous facilities for doing so, but we don't have any live horse racing here in the state. Right now, I want to just tell everybody, you're on VegasSportsMasters.com. Your picks are there every day, and I know that you're going to be handicapping the preseason football, which starts in a couple of weeks, and I assume you're going to be, like I do, using a lot of information that we can gather from what coaches' tendencies are. Because in preseason football, you're really not betting who the teams are. You're really betting who the coaches want those teams to be that day. So I'm going to start the starter today. Roethlisberger's coming out. He's going to play 2 series. And then I'm going to go to quarterback B, C, D, and E. And they're not going to be behind the first string offensive line, and you know that, and you've got the other team going to play their starter, who may not be even close to being as good as Roethlisberger, but he's going to play the first half. Now that's
you're so right on this. The one thing that preseason bettor has to do is spend some time to find out a team's game plan, how long the starting quarterback is going to play, etc. Information is vital to beat the NFL in the preseason. And then you pointed out there are certain trends that coaches have. For instance, John Harbaugh, the coach of the Ravens, is 9-1 in the first 10 preseason football games that he's coached. By the same token, New Orleans, Sean Payton is 1-11. And so, these guys telegraph what they're going to do, and then they have it's backed up by legitimate numbers. And but you've got to do your homework. You can't just fly in blind.
That's excellent information, and I think you just gave a couple of free bets away. And if you want to buy, Kelso's selections each and every day, to go to VegasSportsMasters.com. You can also go there for my plays, are also posted there, and my plays are also obviously on JimFeist.com as well. We have great articles, podcasts updated each day, and Kelso, first time. This won't be the last. We'll try to do at least one a week, if not two a week, especially when we get to the football season. I want to thank you for joining in for our podcast today. This is our first post-All-Star break podcast, and I want to wish you a lot of luck this weekend, and we'll probably talk again next week to do another one. Thank you, Kelso. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.